okay, a lot of people ask me, they're like, what if it's part of my tradition and part of my family type of thing? And I've had a few friends come to me and talk to me about that. And I told them, it's like, you know what, you can keep doing what you're doing. If you really want to be vegan but just eat meat because of like your family or whatever, do it. But it just depends what you're doing it for, because for both reasons, whether you're doing it for health or moral reasons, that whole tradition thing just does not, it doesn't coincide.
It's really like, you gotta philosophize, like, what is tradition? Like, what is respect? You're like, oh, you gotta respect the tradition.
You don't have to kill an animal
what does
to
that
understand
mean?
respect.
If our tradition was the Nazi Empire, would you respect our traditions of putting all these people into concentration?
Yeah, if my tradition
it's a tradition. It's a tradition of a culture.
You can't be mad. Like, it's a tradition. Of course you're going to be pissed off because it's stupid. It's like, some people view that as stupid,
I feel
too.
like some people might not even, they'll say like, oh, well, Nazis aren't a culture. They're a cult. Well, what is a cult? Are you in a cult? How do you know you're not in a cult? So it's like, you got to philosophize and really question the logic of these things, but people don't.
People
because
these days call
they're in the
everything
matrix.
a cult.
You're in the matrix.
Exactly.
You're programmed. You're not thinking. You got to think. What
there's so many average people that actually are willing to understand these concepts, but for some reason don't. Like, they call people in certain religions a cult. A lot of religious people aren't going to agree with them, right? It's like, why don't you question yourself and ask yourself if you're in a cult or not? You watch those videos.
You can't say culture without cult.
Oh yeah.
Most cultures can see. There's a cult in every culture, I think.
If your culture takes a victim, I don't care. I'm sorry. Like, even for my own.
If you're oppressing someone.
If you're oppressing someone, I don't give a what your culture is, bro. Like, ethics is more important than tradition.
If you're killing someone or something or whatever you want to call animals.
For your tradition.
It's a cult.
Yeah.
It's a
exactly.
Cult. You're sacrificing animals in a temple, and you're gonna say that's a culture.
Yeah. People, I mean,
dude. We saw Christspiracy. That Christ even thought that was a cult when he saw that that was happening in the temple. He was like, "We're shutting this down." What was it called? The Den of Thieves.
Yeah, Den of Thieves.
Look up the Den of Thieves. That was crazy. And then 3 days later, after he shut the whole temple down, crucified.
And you think about it, you don't even view your religious figures as like killing animals, and while they're begging and screaming for their lives, you think your prophets and this and that would actually, like, it just, maybe they did to some people, but it doesn't even make sense. Why would God do that? Create a being that feels pain, that begs for his life, when you hold them down and slit their throat and you still take it? Doesn't make sense to me. I don't know.
Make any sense.
Zero.
I feel like people just don't want to make sense these days. I feel like they kind of know the answer, and they're just trying to create all these denials and cognitive defense mechanism just to run away.
They always have.
You can't run away from the truth, my friend.
You can't run away from the truth. You've never been able to. The truth will always prevail, no matter what crime or atrocity you commit. Justice will prevail.
There's like a saying. It's like the truth is like a lion. Once you let it out, it defends itself.
Yep. You
can't hide the truth no matter what. I mean, look at every type of political situation, shit like the U.S. government tries to hide. It gets out. It gets out. You can't hide it. Honesty is the best policy. So, for living your life on a lie under the matrix, you're gonna be up for a very rude awakening.
You know what's an interesting thing though? I don't think these people, like, especially people that argue the most against veganism, they don't actually they think that like they're going to be victims, and they're right in a way, because they are victims to this entire thing. They think that, like, how do I word this? Like, they think that the world is just not made to be vegan or whatever. It's gonna make everything harder for them, but it's not in the way they think it's gonna be. It's gonna be hard, like, societal wise and everything, but I don't think a lot of people understand how bad the meat industry actually is to society. It is literally a big reason to freaking global starvation. Our people are dying and starving across the whole world because of factory farming. And if you're an environmentalist, pretty sure you already know the facts about that. It's like, you're destroying your own people, you're destroying your health. There's nothing more convenient about eating meat just because it's a little bit cheaper at McDonald's, which there's no health involved in that anyway. Because getting grass-fed steak is pretty expensive too.
Yeah, and I feel like people also gotta I feel like I say this stuff all the time, like the actual logic, and people are like, yeah, it's true, but then they don't change. But you gotta actually like watch documentaries. You actually gotta read the research yourself, because when you see it by yourself, I see people change their behavior so rapidly. Like, I know people, that have known this for their whole life,
Mm-hmm.
but until they see a documentary like Cowspiracy, and then the documentary walks them from A to B, step by step.
Step by step.
Then suddenly they're like, okay, I'm trying to change it. I'm just like, you knew this your whole life. Like, you knew this for years, not your whole life, but like for years you knew this, and now you're suddenly making the change. So it's interesting that people, I feel like, need to be like emotionally convinced before they're logically convinced.
If you're getting all your vegan friends to explain something to you, you know it's right, or even if you're like vegetarian, because I was in that point too, like you kind of know things are wrong, but you just don't care because you can pause the video and go live your everyday life doing your everyday things that are normal, right? That's not enough. Like, I feel like the minute you watch a documentary or something like that, and I mean multiple, and don't just reject it from the beginning because you can just tell people, hey, you watched it even though you didn't listen to any of it. Step by step, through the research, through the logic, like, you can't escape that. You can escape someone else talking to you. You can escape all these other things that everyone else is telling you, but with the logic, with the reason, then you start seeing it more. Because a lot of the time, your vegan friends can't explain things to you, and sometimes you just don't care, and I get that. Like, I was like that too. Sometimes you just gotta watch things over and over again until you realize that you cannot click out. Or sorry, until you realize that you can click out of it. Everyone else can.
Yeah.
Everyone else around the world that's starving because of your mistakes. Everyone else in the world that's starving and dying because of these disasters that are happening because of global warming, like flooding and all this crap. They're all dying because of us. Because of us, we're the privileged ones.
Yeah.
And it's not the vegans that are the privileged ones. They're the ones that are trying to change things. It's like people like, I'm not gonna lie, like who I used to be, we're the privileged ones that don't understand that we're the reason why the world is, so many of the world has its problems. You don't have to physically kill someone to be part of an issue. You're paying people to kill animals. You don't have to kill a dog yourself. You don't have to kill a cow yourself. You could pay someone else to do it. You could pay for their farts.
That's privilege.
And you could pay for global warming.